How often do you see an airplane flying over, or landing, or taking off, and wonder how in the world does something so heavy fly? I'm sure you have heard the story of the Wright brothers and how they achieved the first powered flight. Their story is one of challenge, courage, and determination that ultimately led to the December 17, 1903 flight in Kitty Hawk, North Carolina. The Wright brothers' story does not end there, but continues as they promote this new science. But have you heard the story of Charley Taylor? Without Charley Taylor, the Wright brothers might never have achieved their glory. Charley designed and built the engine that powered the first Wright brothers flights. So who is Charley Taylor? Well, his story is somewhat of an American tragedy. Charley was born when the nation was still recovering from the Civil War in 1868. By the time he was 28, he was a trained machinist, married, and living in Dayton, Ohio. As luck would have it, his wife's uncle had rented a space to two brothers to house their bicycle business. Their names? Orville and Wilbur Wright. Charles was hired by the Wrights in 1901 to build and repair bicycles. This allowed Orville and Wilbur the time to pursue their true passion of aeronautics. While Charley ran the bicycle shop, the Wright brothers pursued the science behind controlled flight and learned to fly their gliders. By December 1902, after successful glider tests, the Wright brothers were ready to attempt a powered flight. But they needed an engine. None of the engines of the day would work. They were too heavy or underpowered. No Dayton manufacturer could or would attempt to build an engine to the Wright brothers' specifications. They needed 8 horsepower and less than 200 pounds. So the brothers turned to their friend and colleague Charley to build their motor. Charley started building in the winter of 1902 and 1903. To save weight, he commissioned a local foundry to cast his crankcase from a new metal, aluminum. He designed and built the engine by hand, machining a crankshaft, pistons, and valves with minimal power or tooling. He traced his crankshaft design on a piece of steel and used a drill press to remove excess material so that his small lathe could turn the piece. His design was within 1/1000th of an inch out of round. That's acceptable even by today's standards. His imagination and creativity saved weight and produced power. When he was finished, his engine produced 12 horsepower and weighed only 150 pounds. And at 10:35 on a blustery winter day in December 1903, Orville Wright used Charley's engine to make history. After that successful flight, the Wright brothers team of Charley, Orville, and Wilbur went on to promote and produce aircraft as they continued to pursue the science of aviation. Wilbur would pass away in 1912, only 9 years after their first flight. Orville and Charley worked together till 1920, when Charley left for California. Sadly, his wife passed away in California. The machine business he started ended in receivership, and his life savings was invested in a real estate venture at the Salton Sea, which failed. Orville had established an annuity to pay Charley $800 a year in the late 30s. Once World War II started, Charley worked in the defense industry until a heart attack in 1945 forced him to stop working. Charley's $800 a year annuity did not go too far once post-war inflation took over. Charley ended up in a charity ward at the Los Angeles General Hospital. His friend Orville passed away in 1948, making Charley the sole survivor of the Wright brothers team. In 1955, the aviation industry finally discovered Charley living in a charity hospital virtually penniless. They raised funds to support Charley and sent him to a private hospital till his death in 1956. Charley was laid to rest in the Portal of Folded Wings, a shrine to aviation in Burbank, California. Charley's contributions to aviation have finally been acknowledged. He is memorialized with a Charley Taylor Award, an award issued to mechanics with 50 years of service. Charley was so much a part of aviation's early development, to think it all started on a windy sand dune in the Outer Banks, North Carolina, with a 12 horsepower engine and a dream. Hey, I'd like to take a minute to thank the people at wrightbrothers.org for helping me with this story on Charley Taylor. They provided many of the images you see. The Wright brothers' story is a fascinating history of challenge, discovery, and accomplishment. They learned to build an airplane, learned how to control it, and taught themselves to fly it. Then they gave it to the world. Learn more at www.wright-brothers.org. Thank you.